talk now to our colleague who attended that media briefing, Nqobile Madlala, who joins us live now. Nqobile, good evening to you. Another matter of concern that has been raised is that of the Democratic Alliance saying to the IEC that they would invite international observers only for the IEC to be surprised that they actually would invite an executive arm of a foreign country. That is not standard practice. How did they respond about whether or not this would raise issues between themselves as the IEC and the DA?
Well, Polly, I'm actually going to bring in the IEC to speak to us about that. But of course, you will remember that even in the interview that was done with Newzroom Afrika with DA, they were saying that the reason why they had gone through this process was because they're saying that there's quite a lot of voting stations. In fact, they're saying just with that over 23,000 voting stations, you can't have eyes and ears everywhere. And this is why they were saying that they want more observers to be on the ground. And I want to bring in now Commissioner to speak to us about such issues. And Commissioner, we know that of course DA has gone ahead and invited observers. And of course this is something that the IEC has spoken about. But is this going to create any conflicts between you and the DA?
I can't imagine that the invitation to observers in general would create conflict between us and anybody. I think it's important to state that the Commission has already through its online portal, approved over 100 organizations as observer organizations. And it's something that we've been very well known for, that we embrace the idea of observers. We think that observer reports also have assisted us in the past, and we take these things very seriously. So it really speaks to the transparency. So that is not anything that would create a rift. Obviously, the issue of going to a Department of State is not something that was in any way, is the normal pattern of things. Usually, as the Chief Electoral Officer indicated, these relations are between ourselves and civil society organizations, in international terms between ourselves and civil society organizations as well. There are accredited organizations from other parts of the world already. It's also multilateral institutions that have electoral expertise and experience from African Union, European Union, Commonwealth, and so on. And within our country, it's very important that we have active support for observers. So I hope, that any concern about embracing observers, helping with training of observers, is put to rest.
And of course, this is something that you've been working on, training the observers. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Look, for each election, we prepare material, both in a printed and electronic form, and we attempt to engage observer organizations in order that they can send representatives and then train the rest of the observers that have been accredited. That's something we do a little bit further down the road when we're clearer about things like the design of the ballot paper and so on and so forth, but it is something that is absolutely on the agenda, and we have already been in touch with some organizations to provide some form of training.
And we understand at this point that you've had the highest numbers, and also you've seen online registration with more young people registering. But do you think they are actually going to come out and vote?
We really hope so. It's certainly the kind of additional interest is something that has made us very, very positive. But at the end of the day, so much of this depends on the ability of candidates, and soon the list of candidates and political parties and independent candidates will be made known. And it really is so important for those individuals, in our view, to be putting forward to young people things that continue to excite them. We've given them the tools to understand, to register, to have the potential. But for that potential to be realized, there needs to be a lot of engagement around issues that young people can relate to very strongly.
Let's talk about those candidates. I mean, a list that came out was not really taken lightly, with a lot of questions around how it came out.
I think that the Commission is very disturbed about the fact that something that is completely unacceptable did occur. But in cases like this, the Commission will firstly recognize that there is a problem, and secondly move to very expeditiously ensure that there are consequences and to ensure that procedures are put in place to really reinforce and to learn from whatever goes awry. And in this case, it's something that we regret, but we believe that we have followed up expeditiously. We have taken the necessary steps to safeguard further, and it's something that really is part of the way we work, and I think it's for always improving things and strengthening things.
But what does this say about the people that work for the IEC when you have a situation like this?
Look, we have thousands of people who work for us, and I think that a breach like this is something that we could never even think of apologizing for or condoning. But the investigation is continuing. What we are very sure about is that it's been able to progress as far as it has, precisely because we also have enormously committed and experienced people within the Commission who are making sure that the work of the Commission is done in the most independent, transparent and honest way possible.
And how will you deal with the MK issue?
Well, the matter is now in the hands of the court. We have spoken in our papers to the court, and we will be guided by what the court decides.
Thank you very much, Commissioner, for speaking to us. Of course, that is a wrap, Polly, on that IEC briefing, just looking closely in terms of what is the way forward going from now into the elections. And, of course, that bridge that we saw happen in the early last week, in fact. And so all of this that has happened, they're just narrowing it down into a fact that there are investigations that are currently ongoing. And at the same time, not forgetting that there are young people that need to vote, and still focusing quite greatly on that. And you will remember that at some point IEC was in Limpopo also trying to get some of the TVET colleges as well as some of the universities to interact and understand why is it important for them to vote.
Nqobile Madlala, thank you very much. Our reporter live for us at the IEC headquarters, reiterating there the official, Janet Love, that the credibility of the IEC is not really dependent on one single factor, although they do frown upon what did occur on Friday with that leak, and that is why consequence management is the next step. But just to reassure the contesting political parties, they did say during the press conference that access to party lists, access to those lists by IEC officials, that is now going to be curtailed in order to avoid such an instance.